Welcome to Beyond Turning Points. Today's guest, Ryan Gittoes, and Ryan is a phenomenal human being.
Uh,
It's such an honor to share Ryan Gittoes with you. Ryan and I first met in 2009, and we'll probably bring up how we met in the discussion, but he very quickly became my best friend, and we have done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of adventures and gigs together and shared the ups and downs of life. And he's an extraordinarily creative, loving man who has contributed so much to the communities that he's lived in and continues to do so. So, welcome, Ryan.
oh, what an intro! Thank you, mate. And yeah, it's a pleasure to talk with you. And yeah, we certainly have a history, a checkered past.
We do lots of fun adventures that some won't be told here,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some better,
but you
nothing
never,
torturous really though, but just lots of good times. Lots of good.
yeah, yeah, and you never know where this podcast is going to go.
What?
So, it is called Beyond Turning Points, and it's about there's a lot to it, but fundamentally, it's around the purpose of this podcast is to help people be inspired and live to their potential and feel connected to others and know that their experience in life is very similar to many other people's experience, and
Yeah,
that we're all part of this ecosystem that's evolving and learning to accept and love and let go more deeply. And part of that is turning points where there's pivotal moments in life. And do you have any pivotal moments in mind that have occurred to you?
yeah. Well, I was thinking about some pivotal moments in life, and I've got quite a few, but I think the first one, the first kind of pivotal moment in my adult life was when I left school and I started plumbing, and I was doing a plumbing apprenticeship with my grandfather. So I'm actually a fourth generation plumber, and so it was in the blood. And I remember,
Not the water, but in the blood.
yeah, my
Yeah.
grandfather used to say, "It may be shit to you, but it's bread and butter to me." But no, so I was doing that, and I remember, so and I'd played music, um, ever since I was probably, well, I was singing when I was younger, but I was always quite creative, I guess. And when I was plumbing, I remember the turning point was I was fixing some taps in Vaucluse, and I remember I was looking out across the water, and it was really beautiful outside, and I looked down at my hands, and I'm fixing these taps, and I looked down at my hands, and I remember thinking, is this what I'm going to do? Is this, why I'm here? Is this my contribution? And the answer to that was no. But I had this whole thing, plumbing thing, that was just ahead of me. My grandfather had a business in the eastern suburbs. It was all there for the taking, this path in plumbing. But the answer to that was no. And so that began the the exploration of, okay, well, what is it? And yeah, so at that point it was tied up with music and playing, and I think really the thing about it was that it was the connection that I loved, playing music, the ability to connect with lots of people. And so that then started a series of decisions based around pursuing that. Um, so yeah, that was probably the first turning point as an adult. That was uh, yeah, a huge shift in direction for me. Um, yeah, and so from there I went and did that. I pursued music down in Melbourne, lived down in Melbourne for a little while, And uh, but funny enough, plumbing, because it's hard to make money as a musician, and there's lots of musos down in Melbourne, and so I remember being down there and I was studying music and I was just broke. I was just so broke. I was living in a share house with, it was like 6 of us in a 3-bedroom house, and it was, yeah, exactly how you would imagine it is how it was.
I remember you telling me about one of the rules in the, I don't know if that was that house or another share house, and you had a rule about when you came home late at night.
Yeah,
Was that one?
yeah. So that was in the house just before I moved to Melbourne. So I was living in a share house in Stanmore. I was living with 2 friends, and it was this cool little, uh, workers' cottage in Stanmore, and this old brick place. And it was great location because you could get home from the city with just the change in your pocket, in a taxi. And yeah, so we're all young and working different hours, like I was plumbing, and my friend was managing a bar, and another one was studying, and so we were all working different hours, and we had this thing where it was like, when you're living in a house and you come home and it's kind of like, oh, I've got to be quiet and I don't want to. And I think it was me who kind of formalized it. And I said, look, we're all young, just, this is your house. You can come home whenever it is and be in your house, like and if you wake us up, then it's okay. But that quickly turned into, creatively, how could we wake the whole house up when you got home? So, but yeah, that was fun.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I remember you telling me something about, people would come home at 3 o'clock in the morning and put music on and be like, okay, everyone just has to get up.
yeah, it was just like, okay. And then I had a didgeridoo, and so I remember cracking my mate's door and sliding the didgeridoo up to his ear as he's sleeping, and then started playing it, or guys, they just run in and jump on your bed, and but yeah, so there were heaps of creative ways that we did it. I think I threw like a firecracker in my mate's window one day. So yeah, my mate was he got me probably the best though. Um, so I came home and it was cool because you used to look forward to getting home because you're like, I'm like, wake these guys up. And I, I I went to Waz's bedroom, and his door was a bit open, and I was like, okay, well, I got him here, and I opened up the door. And then this bucket of water just fell straight on my head, and he's like, got up, he's like, ah! That was funny, but yeah, it was a good time, and I think we knew then that we're 20, early 20s. It was like, suck it up.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's something in there around knowing that it was temporary and making the most of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then one of the guys moved out, and we had another I had another friend that I'd known for since I was a kid, but he had a different kind of temperament, and he didn't have a bar of it. He was not.
It didn't work for him.
No, it didn't work for him, and so
Uh,
we that didn't last long. The house kind of changed, and then it was all, yeah. And then I moved to Melbourne, um, and I actually moved to Melbourne with one of the guys that I lived with in that house. So yeah, Alex is his name.
mm.
So yeah,
What do you think you had to that young version of you that
Mm.
wanted to shift from plumbing to music?
Mm.
What did he have to realize about himself?
I think there was this sense of, um, with the plumbing, it was like rinse and repeat. That this was my life. I was just going to be a plumber. And yes, I could progress and, run a business and all of that. But I think it was that sense of adventure. And I've always loved people. And so I felt like yeah, with the music, I was able to connect with so many more people. So I think it was realizing that, yeah, I didn't want the story to be written. There was an adventure to be had. There was an adventure. There was ups and downs, and it wasn't like, yeah, you're a plumber. This is what you do. Yeah.
Hmm. Curious, how is it now to be saying there's an adventure to be written and there's ups and downs and
Part of me wishes you're stuck with plumbing in Sydney, bought a few properties in Sydney, and you took your grandfather's business over, and
Mm,
um, eh, but how does it feel now? You know, I have had so many beautiful experiences, and um, there was never any option to not. It would have ate at me and ate at me, and I yeah, and I've always yeah. I guess it comes down to this sense of purpose, and then fundamentally the question is, why am I here? And then, am I in alignment with that?
mm,
And I don't think I always have been, and I don't think that you can always be. I think part of it is the the navigating and the coming back into, but fundamentally it's that I'm listening for that.
mm. Yeah.
Um yeah.
Yeah. And I think sort of like in that navigating, like the oscillation where it's like in integrity, in alignment, but it's like something that I find is called a good compass is intention.
Mm,
Right? Like the personalities and the behaviors that they can go out of alignment, but
mm,
there's the intention of following your path and which, you do time and time and time and time and time and time again, right? It's like that's
mm,
something that well, I admire in you, but also acknowledge in myself
mm.
too, that we're both very creative and we're both open to, well, this is how life is now, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk this way,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's still in alignment with what the heart is calling us to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that. It's like the path can change, and you could be on it, and actually now it's this, and I'm feeling this, and I'm going to go with that. And sometimes that's very scary. Sometimes that is just uh, an outcome. It's like, okay, well, now I'm doing this. It's like with the COVID stuff. I was so committed to the music therapy stuff. Like, I was doing it. I was going down that road. And then when COVID hit, it completely changed it for me, because it was like, that no longer feels right. And so I think that external forces, and I think, when you say creative, it's kind of like, okay, well, what is that? Part of that for me is the way that I walk, the way that I show up, is that it can change. It's like if there's a box and there's the rules, and it's like, okay, well, now you have to do this. And you go, well, actually, no, I don't want to do that. That doesn't feel right to me. And then you create a new path that sets you on a new kind of trajectory. And yeah, I think that when I lay on my deathbed, no matter what happens, I think I'll be proud of myself for that.
Mm,
No matter what kind of situation I find myself in, I think I'll know you 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 gave it a good go. You listened, and you had experiences, and you were kind, and that I intentionally wanted to have a positive ripple, in my community, in my family. And I don't always do that. I know, but that that's the overwhelming majority of how I've lived my life
Mm.
is one of service and one of, looking for ways that I can give. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and that there's thousands of people that would agree with you that that's what you've done, that you have been that ripple, changing people's lives and having positive impacts, like thousands and thousands and thousands of people from music and your creative work, your videography work, your work with people with unique abilities, which I love that.
yeah,
So, a lot of people might say disabilities or
yeah,
special needs, and you brought to me the phrase unique abilities.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I for years. So, yeah, I've been doing that work for over 20 years now, and it never sat right with me,
Mm.
disability. It's like, you know and it wasn't until I, started, my own business and working through the NDIS and all of that, that I was like, I need a way to communicate what I do that doesn't feel, to me, degrading. Some people have embraced the word disability, and it's fine. It's like, if that's how, I just don't, just doesn't resonate with me. And so, yeah, I was like, I need a way to be able to communicate to somebody that they know what I'm talking about without it being belittling or degrading, or,
Mm.
so yeah, and I really do just love that so much. I have just received so much. I've been so rewarded in so many ways supporting people with unique abilities. It's probably one of the most um, beautiful aspects of my life, is being able to support, and really, it's connection. I have this ability to just connect so deeply, and it's kind of like navigating this. I often feel like it's like, somebody who has uh, a challenge. There's this gray area between what they're actually capable of and the where they are, and I guess we all do. But how do I support them to really start pushing that? Um, and the arts is just such a beautiful way to do that, because it all it it becomes the vehicle. So I'll give you an example. I've got a client who super creative, like, just his creative mind is like a lush garden. It's just filled with flowers and trees and beautiful, but it's all internal. And so helping him to start expressing it into the material world is such a beautiful thing. And so, using the arts as a way to do that, we've just had the most amazing experiences, and we just had this an event where he was supporting his friend to release to release his album. So it was like the his album launch, and he did the sound, he did the the graphics, he helped set up, he helped mix and master, and this project was all scaffolded for him. So it's like, okay, well, you've got this friend here, this acquaintance here. How do we, build these connections and invest in that, and use your skills to, and on the night, um, he was a rapper, his friend, and he, at the end of the night, in front of all his peers, just thanked him for everything he's done. And it was this public acknowledgement of how he's contributed to this launch. And it was the first time he'd ever been acknowledged for his skills ever in front of all. And he had, huge social anxiety. So to do that in such a public way was just so powerful, and that rippled out. And, it was just beautiful. And I think that those experiences, they mean something to me. They mean something. It's not nothing. And it's not, it's not it's payment, but it's not just money. It's a currency. And I've always felt that way. Yeah, that giving and that looking for how do I give this, how do I support this person or experience that's going to ripple out.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. It's nice that you tied that back in with the ripples, right? That's how we started. Oh, no.
Did I?
Just beautiful. Just, you're a true artist, bring it right back to the start. Yeah. And so how does one get from being a young musician in Melbourne to living up on Tamborine Mountain in Queensland, studio, where you're not just working with people with unique abilities, but community and creative events, and it's phenomenal what you've created up there, and it's coming to an end after almost 2 years, and you really you turned a tin shed into a fully functioning studio that could cater up to 130 people or so. It's had festivals. I actually had my 50th there, which we did as a festival, Mountain Fest.
Mountain Fest, yeah.
And there's been so much there. So how did that young you end up doing what you're doing now?
Obviously, lots of probably just backing myself, because there's times in life where you got to make a decision. You got to say, you got to look at your hands and go, is this what I'm going to do? And I think that in my intentions and my endeavors to support, I'm also supported. And so I think fundamentally I know that. And so I've made decisions that were lofty based on this internal guidance system. Why am I here? I'm not here. I'm here for a reason. And sometimes I've felt things and not made decisions. And I feel like they are decisions too, So, yeah, I guess really just backing myself. And I think creatively, I've always thought, how do I push this? How do I take this? What is like a creative idea, and how do I dial it up? How do I make this beautiful? How do I apply my creative mind to the experience that I'm trying to offer? Or if I'm filming a podcast, how do I make it as beautiful as I can? How do I and, and I think it's that little extra, just giving that a little extra. And sometimes, I pay the price for that. Sometimes I do. I get run down, or if I'm not looking after myself, or um but sometimes that's what's required.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's what it would be. It would be, I try.
Hmm.
I really try. Like, I and sometimes I'll get an idea and I'll be like, "Oh, why would I have that idea? It's gonna require me to do this and do that and do this and that." And it's like, just for example, when we were having your mountain fest, and I had this idea. Got these big. Uh, I had a friend who works for Energex, and he had all of these big cross members that for the power poles, the timbers that go. And I was like, what if I make a big mountain fest sign, put up the front? So I was like, oh, God. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it's those little things that, they, yeah, that served me. That served me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how those little things add up. I think remember hearing something Roger Federer, and like number one tennis world champ numerous times,
Mm.
and statistically he was only just a point whatever, a few percent getting a higher score in tennis. Like it was only just a point whatever percent
Yeah.
above the next person, but it kept him at the top for so long, just that little extra percent. And it's not about the perfection, right? And it's like our minds love perfection. They love to go, this is the standard by which you should hold yourself.
Yeah.
However, something I've been really contemplating lately is no, it's about excellence,
Mm.
and just doing excellence, not for achievement, but for satisfaction.
Yeah. 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 And I've definitely noticed that, like running a venue. It's like there are so many things that, you know, you, to think like that, it's like, okay, this has got to be done that, just to, yeah, for excellence. You can do it, but then how do you do it well?
Mm.
You know? And, you know, with the studio here and the music venue, like I'd only just got the stage dialed in exactly how I wanted it. So it's like taking um cinematic lighting and stage lighting, and then combining those two to make beautiful, live performances. And I'd literally only just got it dialed in, and then it was like, okay, it's done. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but anyway,
yeah. And the life where you don't know where it's going.
yeah, no, exactly. And I think, going back to the beginning, that there is that sense of adventure in that,
Mm.
you know. And I remember, younger, traveling, that sense of freedom. I value that. I value that.
Mm. Yeah, I remember one of the first gigs we ever did together was at Three Worlds, out the back of a drum shop on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And you had been writing the traveling song.
Mhm.
And there's a line from that that says, I don't know where I'm going. That's the best part, not knowing.
Oh God. Yeah. 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 How old was I? I would have been 23 or 24.
I was about 54.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that sense of adventure in you,
Mhm.
that's just like that's part of your makeup,
Mm,
as you've mentioned before, right? But it's just part of you, and sometimes things happen to us that are unexpected,
mm.
like the closing of their studio,
Yeah.
and it's easy to. We were talking about this before the call around like going to a valley,
Yeah.
and it's like there's something about life, like. Yeah, I often think about movies and computer games and things, how they reflect life.
Yeah.
And so if you watch, say, like a series, I don't watch many TV series or anything like that anymore, but, let's say something like, Grey's Anatomy or whatever, whatever those shows were. It was never about the couple being together and being happy. It was
Mm.
always about the tension leading up to them. And so, if there was 10 episodes, 8 episodes were of them becoming like,
Yeah.
the tension of them liking each other and almost being together and then not being together. And
Yeah.
then there was half an episode where they were together and they were happy.
Mm.
And then the rest of the
Mm.
episodes were about them breaking up and conflict and where they're going to get back together again.
Yeah.
And life's a bit like that, where it's like the
Yeah.
tension, the
Yeah.
tension of, is this going to happen? Is this
Mm.
going to occur? And it's almost like it can be really super entertaining,
Mm.
the tension. But if we can take a step back from it and just go, okay, I see this is happening.
Mm.
And then the equanimity of like, okay, this
Mm.
is all happening for me.
Yeah.
It's all turning out for me.
Yeah.
I can't see around the bend.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
can't see. Right now I'm in the rapids.
Yeah. That's right.
It's wild and it's
That's right.
punishing and it's not what I expected. It's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's around the bend, but if I could see around the bend,
Yeah.
that would make it easier because
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I know there's going to be a calm spot just
Yeah.
around the bend.
Exactly. And that is so true. And, there's with the closing of the studio, there's been things that have happened that have felt really unfair and unjust and out of integrity. And, like there's that, you know, fuck you. And you did this and this is not what I was just getting started. And, it was great. And, like I'd invested everything that I had into it and, I didn't get a return and all of this stuff. And then, you know, the realization is I'm not meant to be here. And so then you're letting go of that victim or letting go of the the tantrum of this is not what I want
Mm.
to accepting, okay, well, yeah, this is a rapid. This is rough. This is unsettling. You could get thrown out at any point. You could drown. And people do.
Mm.
But as you said, around the corner, you know, is that beautiful, calm, deep water river where it's just picturesque and you pull up on the bank and you've got this meadow and you get a fire going and you're like, this is nice. I like that.
Uh,
Yeah. And it does, it helps. And I guess that's part of the adventure. The adventure does come with the ups and downs. And I shared I want, yeah, because we don't know. But then I've chosen to live this way. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and most people when they go on an adventure, they picture themselves at the top of the mountain,
Mhm.
right? Which is only for half an hour. You know, if you think climbing Everest, right, you got to train for months, and then you got to go to base camp and spend time there and acclimatize, and you know you got to learn all about these things about yourself and about other people and the connections and the relationships. It's actually not about the time at the top of the mountain.
Mm.
And but that the mind, that's it can get very fixated on that. And you
Yeah.
know, even like financial things, right? It's like this is a success if I make this amount of dollars. That
Mm.
the mind will love that.
Mm.
But then it's actually you can make that amount of dollars and be totally unfulfilled.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody about that the other day. It's like, and it happens so much that people just invest themselves into making money, make the money and go, well, I don't feel any different. Nothing's
Mm.
changed, you know?
Yeah.
Or I
Yeah.
was speaking to my sister who, you know, they've, they've renovated their house and they put a beautiful new kitchen and all of this stuff. And she's like, you know, it's nice, but nothing changes, you know?
Yeah.
I'm still here. I'm still, you know, and so that trade-off of, you know, working to make the money, to do the things, to have the things, you know, the experiences that I've had, you know, you just can't buy, you know, and as I said before, it's currency for me.
Mm.
You know, sitting back, watching, you know, my client receive this public, you know, and knowing what that means to him, knowing that he's never had that before. You know, his currency, it's his experiences that I do cherish and that I do value deeply. Yeah.
Yeah. I love there's there's a book called Love Money, Money Loves You by
Mm.
Sarah McCrum.
Mhm.
Um, you know, if you're into Spotify, which I think less and less people are into Spotify at the moment, there's some really dodgy stuff that's happening with Spotify as far as royalties and rights, and
Oh,
it always has been
God.
dodgy, right?
Yeah. But
And you and I have been around long enough to see the the catastrophic impact that it's had on for musicians. We'll come to that. We'll come to that, shall we? We'll have a chat about that.
yeah, no, for
Um, and Sarah McCrum, I remember hearing in her book, she says something along the lines of people who don't have people who don't have money want money. People who have money, they want inner peace.
Mm.
And so it's like, okay,
Mm.
well, if you get the inner peace first,
Mm.
then you're going to have the money too,
Mm.
right? And it's like you already have the inner peace, but part of that journey that we have, that survival journey, is like, okay, yes, we need money to live on, right?
Mm.
But going for the money doesn't give the inner peace. And the people that have money, what are they craving?
Yeah,
Inner peace, connection.
totally.
Mm, mm,
Totally. And you know, if you were to ask me how much connection currency do I have in the bank, I'm fucking loaded.
mm,
Like,
yes.
absolutely loaded. You know,
Mm,
like, even in my community, it's like, yeah, I feel connected. I feel
yeah.
valued. I feel appreciated and seen, and I feel that, you know, me being here is it matters,
Mm,
you know? And yeah, maybe going back to those first decisions around like the music and, you know, connection is vital for me.
mm,
Feel connected.
yeah.
Um,
I remember when we first started playing together and you saying something to me, which was, you know, why are we playing live? We could play these songs at home, just the two of us. Why are we playing live?
mm,
It's to connect.
yeah.
And there was a beautiful lesson in that, right? It's not just music, it's connection.
Totally.
And for me, with what I do on social media and these podcasts and whatever other work I do, it's all about connection. Connection to self, or connection to something greater, or connection to community, or connection to our dreams and our visions and our creativity.
Yeah.
But that's the connection, and connections. Like, okay, one of the gateways is presence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's creativity can bring such presence.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I did. So the last gig at the studio was my first gig at the studio. So I'd never done a full gig at the studio. And so I had this idea where I was like, so I played, and then I had this idea around, connection and presence, and how do you like, we're all distracted in a way. We're surrounded by so many things that are vying for our attention, so many billboards and signs and pop-ups and things that are all saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. And when you're playing like music, and that opportunity to say, okay, this is what matters now, And so I said, I wanted to so I basically said, if somebody, I'd love to create something right now. And then I asked if someone would come up and just share something on the stage. And then, so then this lady came up and she shared something about how she had started doing soccer coaching, and how much she's actually receiving from it, and the nurturing these kids, and just how much that has impacted her life. And so then I just created a song on the spot around that, and it was this really calling into presence, like, this is happening right now. And I think with all of the creative AI tools that are happening, where it's like you can just generate everything instantly, like, to be able to say, okay, but this is happening now. And if you're not here, you're going to miss it. And intrinsically, that's what I was saying to them. And I had 150 people in the room, dead silent, and it was like, and I feel like I'm distracted as well. Like, I've got so many friggin' apps and things, and running a business, there's always something to do, and and so it was a really sacred moment for me too, to just go, I'm just in this flow of being present and expressing that sentiment right now. And yeah, it was beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, and I tell you where I'm heading with. So, like, I've gone down the AI rabbit hole deep, right? And I use it in my work and help people use it themselves in their business, and
Yeah.
it's phenomenal, right? However, yeah, there's a devaluing of craft, right? And so, coming back to Spotify, when you and I started playing music together, we made CDs, and so our first CD that we did together, I already had a CD, and you and I started playing together, and there was a day where we said, right, whatever people want to pay, they can just pay for whatever they want. They can take home one of my CDs, and we'll use that money to pay for our first recording.
Yeah. I remember when you pitched that to me, because you're like, we've already paid for it. The CD is already made. It doesn't cost us much to print them. Let's just do that. And I was like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we sold so many CDs, and then we took that money and we recorded an EP, and then we did the same thing with that EP. And we did that, and we ended up doing, from my recollection, almost 17,000 CDs at live shows.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was community. Like, community were invested in that. But that the money from the CDs, it effectively doubled what we were earning as musicians.
Mm.
Whereas
Yeah.
now musicians are still earning the same amount of money that they were earning 15 years ago,
Yeah.
right? That's still the same price that they're being paid for a gig,
Yeah.
what they were getting paid 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But they don't get money from the albums.
Yeah.
And Spotify literally, I'll be lucky to make 5 cents from Spotify in 12 months.
Mm.
And now with Spotify, they've just introduced that any musicians whose music is with Spotify have full royalties on that music, meaning that they can reproduce it, they can adapt it. And so what they're doing is they're getting ready for AI. So
Right.
they can basically come in and just utilize it and do whatever AI plans they have. And there's friends of ours that, I know 2 people that I'm very close to, and both of their music has been taken off Spotify because through hard work, their numbers have gone up. So like one of them's Nikki Convine,
Mm-hmm.
and her streaming numbers through doing videos almost every day on social media and a huge amount of music and sharing it all, her streaming numbers went up. Spotify flagged her as paying third party to get streams, and she's been shut down on Spotify.
Really?
Yeah. And that also happened to my brother-in-law. Right. And he's hardly even on social media, but it's just from doing gigs and people loving his music and someone sharing it.
So she's being punished for becoming more popular.
Yes. And it's happening to a lot of independent artists around the world
Wow.
that they're being flagged by AI, which this is one of the futures that we live in now, right? That the regulation is being done by AI. So, here in Sydney, there's just traffic cameras everywhere. Like one of the freeways, there is a camera every 100 meters, right? And they're monitoring, are you on your phone? Do you have a seatbelt? What speed are you doing? Right. And if you're doing the wrong thing, takes a photo, sends it. And then if you want to appeal it, and the same thing happens with Facebook or anything like that, you want to appeal it, it goes to AI. It doesn't go to a person.
Mm.
Yeah. And so the regulation of humanity, it's becoming more and more surveilled, more and more systemized, and it's only going to get worse, right? And this is now happening to musicians through Spotify.
This is the thing that absolutely gets me, is that it's not just like the devaluing of a musician, right? Or like how they've got to struggle, or there's this kind of like top echelon that make all of the money, and then the 95% don't. But it's like all of the other pressures now to be a musician. You've got to be on social media all the time. You've got to have like a following, all of that. And it's not just about the music, and all of the artists like that will never go into music because it's just too hard.
Mm.
And you've got these AI digital recreation tools that can literally produce songs in minutes,
Oh, seconds.
seconds,
Yeah.
that can then just be pushed. I just, this is the thing about the AI world, is that, soon it's going to be the AI feeding into the AI, feeding into the AI, feeding into the AI. And it's just this kind of sea of, of digital noise. And, I feel like that's why I do what I do, and why I opened this place, was that it was a place for community, a place for people to come and share experiences in a real way. And I just, it's hard not to be jaded by it.
Mm.
It's hard because it's not slowing down. In fact, it's speeding up exponentially.
Yeah. And so for me, the outcome of that is going to be eventually, you know, the awakening of humanity to what's important is authenticity,
Mm.
connection,
Yeah.
presence, humans.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the particularly, the last 5 years since the COVID hoax, however you want to describe that shambles of what that
Y-
process was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That tyrannical control mechanism.
Yeah, and loss of human connection. And I personally, I still work with clients who are still recovering from 5 years ago, and what the impact of that process was and had on them, because it's like it changed people's subconscious mind into, okay, this is how life is now, highly surveilled. You be told what you can and can't do, right? And people just go along with it. But there has to be this point where they call it the revolution point, right? Where people get to this point where they're like, okay, we've had enough. We're not putting up with this anymore.
Mm.
And starting to see it with the Gaza stuff, right? Like just horrific, and even gradually people are waking up, but it's taken a long time.
Mm.
And so, but what we're learning is humanity matters, connection matters.
Mm. But I
So
think even in all of those things is we're just bombarded, and we're getting to this place, we're already there, but it's only going to get worse, where you you're g- the mechanisms for control are going to be so invasive that you're literally not going to know what is true and what's not.
mm,
Anything that you are fed, anything that you see on screen, anything can be digitally recreated to the point where you will not be able to tell the difference. So what does that do to a person? You're going to be guarded. You have to be, and so in a way it becomes this quagmire of uncertainty
mm,
and fear and
yeah.
then control.
Mm. And then say, okay, and where does the responsibility come back to the individual to see about the control, to see the fear, to take responsibility for themselves and how they're being in the world and what they're permitting in the world?
Totally. Totally.
Um, and but uh, there definitely seems like there's so many issues that we can't be across it all, right? So it comes down to a choice. It's like, okay, what am I going to stand for?
Mm.
What am
Yeah.
I going to stand for?
Yeah.
Because I can't stand for every cause.
No. And in fact, the causes come thick and fast.
Mm,
Thick and fast. So like
yeah.
sometimes I'll think about the Trump assassination because that blew my mind. I was like, how can you it none of this makes sense. None of it makes sense. But it's just moved on. The next thing, the next thing,
Right.
the next thing, the next thing, next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And it's like they know that.
Yeah.
They know that. So they're like, yeah, well, we'll just do this. And then, 2 weeks later, it'll be another thing. And
Yeah.
then we're all just fucking suck it in.
Well, and that's the thing. They think people forget, but it compounds. There's
Mm.
like an energetic residue that
Mm.
compounds.
Mm.
And at some point there is going to be this awakening of humanity. And I remember reading in Tibetan law there was something around the golden age, right?
Mm.
And the golden age is in 250,000 years for humanity. And I was like, "Oh, you're kidding." I was hoping it was gonna happen in my lifetime. Here I am stressing about humanity and the well-being of humanity, but it's we're not gonna hit the golden age for another 250,000 years. Oh,
Mm.
and that actually just, lightened it a bit for me because I went, "Oh, okay, my time expectations," and I learned this time and 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 time again. My expectations of time, they don't match universal time.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, and we really don't know what is going to happen, and I think about that with the AI stuff is like we are going to live through the biggest transformation in human history, without a doubt.
Mm.
The AI, the humanoid robots that are happening now, it's just wild. It's wild, and the labor that is going to be, the work force is just going to be replaced,
Mm.
and so that's where this part of me, the apathy, comes in, because it's like, well, what can I do? What can
Mm.
I do? And I I feel like, that part, where I said, like, I try, and I feel like I'm getting tired.
Mm.
I feel like I'm getting tired, and I feel like I'm I'm trying to frame things in my mind, like, this is part of it and blah blah blah, but it doesn't feel like it's serving humanity. And the reality is that it's not. It's wrapped up that it is making things, more quicker and easier, and but that, like the cognitive offloading that's happening. You know, Sometimes I think about
What what's cognitive offloading?
so cognitive offloading is like I can think, instead of thinking about a solution, I will just get ChatGPT to do it,
Mhm.
right? And so then what happens is I'm cognitive offloading my thinking to ChatGPT, and they can be small things, they could be big things, but that process will degrade your cognitive capability.
Mhm. Yep.
And I often think about that with you know the Egyptian culture. There was a massive degradation of um, skills. Like the ancient stonework is far superior, and so there was a loss of of, of ability. And I think that that's what's going to happen, is that humans are going to lose. It's like when you see an artist that is just at the top of their game, you know, and you're like, far out. That is impressive.
Hmm.
You know, I think we're going to see less and less of that.
Which is one view. The other view, like, possible realities, we're gonna see more of it because computers are going to take up so much of that other load.
Mm.
And that it's okay, well, Ryan, what do you love doing? Well, I love running a studio. I love helping people connect, and I love having adventures. And so then the possibility that that's what you get to spend more of your time doing.
Mm.
However, in the 80s, computers were going to come in, we're going to work a lot less
E-
hours.
Exactly. And I don't believe that. I
Mm.
don't believe that. I don't believe that that's why AI and these companies, and it is to free humans. It's like there's that saying, why didn't AI come for my gardening and my fucking dishes and leave drawing and writing and art to me? Because I like doing that.
Well,
They came
we already
straight
have
to creative.
dishwashers.
They were
We
the
have
first.
dishwashers.
Yeah.
We already have a dishwasher. You want a robot to put the dishes in the dishwasher for you?
Well, it's coming.
Actually, the powder is so exhausting. Isn't there a robot that can put the
It's
powder in for
coming.
me?
It's coming. I was just listening to Elon Musk today about the Optimus.
Mm.
They're saying it is going to be the biggest product ever. Ever. These humanoid robots that will be autonomous and will do anything.
So what songs are you going to write?
Sure.
I won't have to write them because I'll tell the robot.
Yeah.
Robot, I'm feeling a bit sad. Write me a song that's going to heal me.
Yes. Based on based on the Doobie Brothers and fucking Elvis, can you write me a song that uses Mixolydian bloody? It's like you just. I don't know. It just.
And then you tell her you want more cowbell.
Yeah, exactly. More cowboy. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So I don't know. I guess there is this sense of part of me is both, willing to go on the adventure, but also looking at the landscape thinking there's so much uncertainty.
mm, mm.
There's so much uncertainty. And that's not from a place of fear. That's from a place of having eyes open. And, even the most anyone in that space says there's no way we can determine what it's going to look like in 10, 15, 20 years.
No.
There's just no way. Whereas our grandparents, they didn't have that.
Mm.
They didn't have that. There wasn't a threat. It wasn't this looming threat of, complete societal upheaval.
Well, they had nuclear weapons, right? And I'm showing my age, right? But I remember in the early '80s watching videos about what to do if there was a nuclear attack, and about hiding under the desk, right? That had nothing to do with the desk; would have just been turned to dust. Right? Well, they would have been left with my teeth, but hide under the desk anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly.
So, but there's those kind of things are always here, like those threats. And okay, how do I be the most fulfilled, content version of me that is still sharing my magic with the world?
Yeah.
Even though all this stuff is happening.
Yeah. And that is a challenge. That is a challenge. And I'm up for a challenge. And I, go through periods where, like, I'm in the rapids right now. So I understand that my experience is one of turmoil, uncertainty. And so that helps to compound that. So I'm aware of that. And I'm aware that it also doesn't necessarily last, and that, I'm naturally optimistic. But that's where I'm at right now. And, things will turn. And as we said before, it's like, life is happening for us, and nothing outside of this is outside of life. It is just the one thing. And I think that I don't have a problem per se with technology and the concept. Joe Rogan has that concept that we are a biological caterpillar giving rise to artificial life, right? I know, I think that's very plausible. The problem I have is that the people who are creating it and power and control are the mechanisms by which they have attained those positions. And I don't feel like humanity and connection plays a, a, a big role in their decision making process.
Yeah, and I would say that's because humanity's given them permission to go that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I agree. And you just look at what happened in COVID.
Mm, mm, mm.
Man, people just laid over, and you know, I personally was made to feel like I'm, putting people at risk, and like I'm just I couldn't work, and all because I didn't agree with it.
Mm, mm.
We,
Yeah,
you know, and then I think people have woken up to it more, but that mechanism is still there.
it is, and it continues to protect them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
There would have been things like a royal commission as to why Victoria was locked down for 2 years. Why were we locked down, right? Why did it go on the length that it did in Australia when it wasn't doing that in the rest of the world? So those people are still protected because that's the system. Now, within that, it's like, okay, what can I control? What
yeah,
can I control? And it's like, you know what? I can have this conversation with you and I can share this conversation. And it's like, that's where my presence is. It's, mm, well, conscious of time. Thank you for sharing your heart, dear man.
yeah. No worries. And I hope I haven't come across as all doom and gloom. But
No,
I am in the rapids right now,
you are in the rapids, and
valley,
you
and
know,
this is the podcast is turning point. Well, for there to be a turning point, there has to be a moment of crisis, of uncertainty, to then turn towards the ultimate truth. And for me, the ultimate truth is that I am not Ryan having a, you know, I'm part of this beautiful thing. And I believe that I'm here for a reason. And that, that reason is the cornerstone of that is connection. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and you have without a doubt created so many ripples in your life of connection,
Mm.
and I continue to see that. Sometimes it's hard to strap the boots on, but especially when we take a hit, right? But it's like that adventurer, it doesn't know where he's going, but that's the best part, not knowing, right? He's still there. He's still there,
Yeah.
and I honor that in you,
Thank
and
you.
honor in how you help other people access that.
Yeah.
It's a real gift that you have,
Yeah.
and I feel your sadness at the end that this wonderful studio and community that you've created around the studio.
Yeah.
It's either coming to an end in some way or it's coming into a transformation in some way,
Mm.
and that's not easy in the transformation. But
Mm.
I by your very nature, this is what you do.
Mm.
You emerge again, and
Right.
your thirst for excellence and your thirst for like, how can I make this beautiful? How can I make this even better? How
Yeah.
can I
Mm.
have this person show up and share themselves even more and have a phenomenal experience of connection and love and creativity that just pours out of you. So I acknowledge that in you, and I
Thank
thank
you.
you for being your authentic self in the podcast. And we will have a chat again. And we've got an album that we recorded 5 years ago that we haven't launched yet. So that's in the making at some point. That it's ready to go. But we just we'll get Nikki and whoever else, and we'll do a proper album launch at some point.
Yeah. Sounds
Uh,
good.
I love you. Ryan Gittoes, thank you.
Thanks for everything.
Yeah.
Adios.